I think for inside Iran to infiltrate the Islamic Republic, I think only Mossad and the United States intelligence are capable of doing something like that. I don't think the Ukrainians are capable of infiltrating or willing to, because it's, I mean, willing to put so much resources. The benefit cost analysis doesn't make. They need to focus on Russia. Africa makes sense sometimes because it's easier, but for Iran, I think mostly makes sense mostly for Mossad and U.S. intelligence.
Well, another reason is that Iran still gives Russia all the Shahedi the technology that
Trojans, yeah.
is, and Russia uses it against Ukraine. So maybe the Ukrainians may have some interest in putting some
Some
force in it.
obviously they do some interest, but like obviously Israel has a lot more interest. Like they're not trying to wipe out Ukraine.
Yes.
I know. I'm just saying that there's some interest, but not enough to get so directly involved.
And the other thing is,
Last point, because
Let's make it brief.
all right, I'll try to make it short. There is Russian opposition in Europe that speaking bullshit about the Iranian. They're saying stuff like, "Oh, the Iranians can't cope and get some transition government hands because this, and nobody
who
is
gives a shit?
really
Who
willing
gives?
to."
Why do we give a shit what Russians are saying about us? Fuck them.
I hope it's so, but they have many grants and the people pay them and people listen to them.
It doesn't
Just
matter. We're in the middle of a war,
okay.
and the Islamic Republic is about to fall. So some people's opinions, right? We are way past that point right now, right? So
Well, I
like,
hope so. Thank you.
Right.
yeah. Also, Daniel, I'm going to make you a premium member so you have access to all our other discussions in the future. Okay.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Make sure to check it. Jeffrey, you need to turn on your mic, my friend.
Where's Samantha?
You can't hear me, Jeffrey?
Unmute.
Do you see a little microphone emoji
We can't.
on the left, down?
Well, let's move to the next person. You could type in the chat because we
Sure
cannot.
thing.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Savannah.
Hi.
Hey.
So I have been following along with everything that's going on, obviously. And I saw something, I'm sure other people saw it too, just a couple hours ago after Donald Trump showed his support and stated that help was coming. Russia issued a warning to him. And I kind of just read a headline. I tried to look it up, but I've been working and I was wondering if that was, they basically just said the consequences of interfering would be, there would be disastrous consequences. And I was wondering if that was as far as relations go, or is Russia like threatening?
No, Russia. So Russia is threatening the United States that there's going to be consequences if they help the Iranian people topple the Islamic Republic. That was their warning.
I kind of, like I said, I was busy and I was able to
Okay.
read kind of a
If they're
headline, but basically, sorry.
warning, that's the only thing they're going to do and nothing else.
Okay.
Putin, like, he denounced it. It's not really, he didn't threat or said that he's going to back it up
Okay.
somehow.
Okay. That's what I was asking. I was wondering if it was referring to like just
He
within the
basically
United
Islamic
Nations or
The Islamic Republic is so done that it's not worth, like, it's basically betting on a losing horse. Like neither China or Russia is going to bother trying to invest in something that is already like is wasting
okay.
money and
Well,
resources.
that's just what I wanted to clarify.
Russia has to worry about its own government not being toppled. Like I don't, they're not in a position to threaten the United States in any
Right.
capacity. They can't even deal with Ukraine, which is the poorest country in Europe, and they want to threaten America.
Yeah, I did think it was a little far-reaching, but it's
Yeah,
good to know that that's not what it was.
yeah.
Okay, that was it.
Oh, okay.
All right, it's me now. So, two things. I don't know if to reply to some of the things that you said on your live stream, or maybe should I say how I just view the situation? What do you prefer? Because we're short in time.
No, I mean I like it when you talk. So like your views are. I'm interested in your views. So you pick whatever you think. I'm sure either way it's going to be fine. So and take
Okay.
your time.
Okay. I think that the way that I see the situation on the ground right now proves my claim from our last conversation. Mobilization is king when you talk about wars. And it's exactly what's happening. I don't know if you are following exactly where Tusi did it. He followed where the shipments are getting from, and he followed some planes and some cargo ships.
Guys, when
And
Asi is speaking, don't wait until Asi is finished before you raise your hand, so he doesn't have to stop talking.
you see, I think that everyone is pretty much on board with helping the Iranian people by now. You can see that the weaklings of the world are also starting to make their voice louder, like Germany, that is saying now that they lost all legitimacy, and the world is starting to turn on the IRGC. I don't think that they want to show it too quick because the IRGC have hostages. According to Israeli security estimation, we are talking about 20,000 now, not 12,000. So yeah, a lot of people. And this thing is going to commence. It's too late to turn back right now. The messages that Minister Miri Regev had said a couple of hours before is it's adjusting with what Trump said. They asked her something like, "Oh, it seems like the things with Iran are hitting right now. Are we going to attack?" And her reply was, "Do you want me to give you the time also and the date and the hour?" So kind of like what Trump said, wait for the next 24 hours and see for yourself. So kind of the same message. I have a feeling that everybody is on this. When I say everybody, I mean maybe some states in Europe and Israel and America 100% in there. I do have a lot of criticism for Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump for showing the cards too early and firing the shot that will start the race for the Iranian people before they mobilize the forces that they need to
Well,
mobilize.
can I defend them for a second? Because I think they needed to give the Iranian people a little bit of hope to know that something is underway so that they don't get disappointed, so that they continue fighting. I think that's why they had to put some information out regarding the attack.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the
But
first thing. The second thing that I wanted to say is I think that we are watching history in the making. It's more than logical to be said when you are burying friends, but it's not the time. You will mourn,
Mhm.
you will cry. I agree with Goldie on this. You need to look at these people like we, the Israeli, look at the warriors of 48 of the independence. I don't think that you understand that one day your grandchildren maybe will watch this video and they will hear stories about what hellish place Iran used to be. And it's all thanks to those 48 warriors who freed Iran in the Independence Day of Iran, that is, I think, very close. Those 20,000 will be remembered as the Iranian immortals, just like in the old days. They died, people replaced them very quickly, and they won. That's the legacy. It's almost poetic, I think. It's very sad, of course. That's my point. I think it's close.
that was very beautiful. I see. I hope
Thank
you're
you.
right.
Thank you, sir. Barry. Okay. So now we have
He,
Paul.
and he meant us so. Paul,
Yeah. Can you
go
hear
ahead.
me?
Yes, we could hear you.
Okay, good. I'm on X and I follow the OSNIT groups, which is open source intelligence groups. And from what I've been seeing on all that they've been saying about possibly what Trump was pointing toward was something could be imminent within the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, I checked the position to where all the fleets are, and at this time, we don't seem to have a battle group in the Persian area. But what we do have in the Persian area are submarines. So there is a suggestion that we could possibly see a wave of cruise missiles in that form. Now, I think the reason for the delay is because every European nation, as that announcement was made by Trump, are recalling all of their people out of Iran, so that's going to take time for them to move those people out. Because of the blackout of the internet there, I've been watching what they call Pizza Tracker. And normally when Pizza Tracker starts operating, that means that something is imminent within the next 24 hours. So we're looking at a possibility that things will start to ramp up really, really quick. And I think that's what Trump was pointing to. I also noticed that he has met with the king. He met with him or talked to him today, and they are conversing. That's the reason why Trump pointed out that he had cut all ties with the regime, and the regime is doomed to fail. But their propaganda is crazy on X. I cannot believe the amount of propaganda this regime is pumping out. But that's to be expected. And I know that Israel is on high alert. I kind of turned my Twitter page into an intelligence network. That way I could, and as far as Russia intervening, I don't think they really want to risk that. And I know that the Iranians have called their ships back from the tip of South Africa because of the situation that's going on, because they're doing exercise drill with the BRICS down there. So they're on their way back, but how fast they can get back, only time will tell on that. So there are military movements going on that we are not seeing, but that are leading toward something happening real soon. That's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Rebecca?
I'm Rebecca. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. So I stand with the Iranians, Javid Shah.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to know, so I'm from Malta. We're a tiny country, very, not influential in world politics. What can we do from back home and from other countries we live in to support the Iranians right now?
Well, you could call your members, your representatives, and ask them to recognize Prince Reza Pahlavi as the official representative of the Iranian people. But also, even more simple is to just be active on social media and support, amplify the voices of Iranian people.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you, Armin.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for even asking and being here. Really appreciate it. What country are you from again?
Malta, or maybe you know it as Malta.
Okay, Malta. Okay, yeah, I know it as
Yeah.
Malta. You know what? You just asking that question. I'm going to once the internet comes back in Iran, I'm gonna go on my Persian live streams to Iran, and I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
mention to people that somebody from Malta came and asked us how she could help the Iranian people, and I'm sure that is going to make them feel really good. That's how widespread the support for the Iranian people is. So, thank you for that.
I live in Ireland, so I'm sharing it with my friends here as well.
Awesome. Okay.
So I'll
Thank
see
you
what
for
I
that.
can do. I'll speak to some people.
And Rebecca, I'm going to change your membership from standard to premium so you have access to all our future discussions. Okay.
Thank you. I've been supporting you a long time.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Take care.
Rebecca, let's try Jeffrey because it was his turn and we had some problem.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. So, just a little background on me. I've had over 30 years experience in national security. It's centered around missile defense, being weaponry, counterterrorism, among other things. I've assisted Ukrainian, Taiwanese, Persian resistant groups. So some of the things I can kind of maybe add to this discussion to better help your efforts in supporting the brave Iranian protesters take down the Mullah regime that's illegally occupied Iran since 1979. First is to view that conflict within the broader geopolitical and geostrategic environment, which is it is one main battle within a broader war between the United States-led Western, alliance and what I call the autocratic bloc, which is comprised of Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state, the Chinese Communist Party, the Mullah regime, previously the Alawite regime, North Korean regime, and all their sub-state transnational proxies and terrorist organizations that are co-aligned, which are so numerous it would take me forever to go through them all. So how, like, what can you do right here? Because a lot of people are asking that, is to contribute to the soft power battle space. This is what you, Armin, and Goldie, and Tusi, and all the rest of them are doing. That is sometimes called the battle of the narratives. And there are two kind of main lines. I hate using this term because I know who coined it. Two lines of effort. One is to disprove the disinformation that is being pushed both by the Mullah regime along with their co-aligned patrons, whether it's Putin or Xi, and or say sub-state transnational actors that are co-aligned with the Mullah regime and broadly around the world, including our own respective countries, rather the radical left here in America. The other part is to maintain public buy-in and guard against issue fatigue, because that translates into national will, and national will is to find and support of policies of peace in wartime. Armin, you had actually mentioned that very emotionally on Goldie's channel. I was very much moved by that, which is why I sent you the email I did, and I gave you my contact. I'm only going to talk from open intelligence indicators, so people are looking at things like pizza tracker or where certain aircraft are going, particularly like non-stealth aircraft that are a lot of fuelers and stuff that we use to sit there and fuel long-range strike aircraft like B2s or shorter range aircraft like F-35s and the rest of that. That's part and parcel. So what do the indicators kind of tell me? There's probably going to be a military action very soon. You have Tusi talking about like certain, you remember the KC-135 that kind of like violated Mullah occupied airspace yesterday, kind of the, what's his name on Tusi? I always mispronounce his name, had tracked that. You have statements from the State Department telling Americans to get out of Iran, independent of US help. Our allies and other actors are involved right now in doing the same. A lot of that tells me that there is a increasing degree of probability that military operations and or supporting actions are coming very shortly in the overt sense. There's already stuff going on covertly. Like, so when people are sitting there and trying to push the anti-Zionist stuff or the anti-Pahlavi stuff, that's almost assuredly either adversaries or co-aligned actors trying to fragment what might be called, within the context of the battle for liberating Iran, the anti-Mullah bloc's kind of, it's like strategic information influence operation to fragment that coalition and undermine national will, because that regime is desperate. Now, as far as like the strikes are concerned, I did some of the pre-assessment prior to Trump's strike against the Mullah regime's nuclear program and immediately post bomber battle damage assessment. Here's the issue. So it's true that we don't have carrier battle groups in the area because we're dealing with some of the things that are going on in the Caribbean, not the least of which is the violent Marxist Maduro regime that had both organizational operational ties to Putin's criminalized counterintelligence, the Chinese Communist Party, the Mullah regime, and Hezbollah, right? They were actually, the Maduro regime was using Venezuela and further developing Venezuela as a staging point to engage in what's sometimes called gray zone or hybrid warfare, which is like conflict other than open conventional war. So drug fair, disinformation campaign, mass illegal immigration to destabilize countries, which you're seeing going on right now.
But
Why
Jeffrey,
did I go through all that?
but
Because
what
then you're seeing an uptick in that, which means that members of the autocratic bloc are almost assuredly trying to undermine our ability to carry out the operations that are almost assuredly incoming.
But Jeffrey,
Can I help you? I don't know.
why would you need this carrier strike group when you have the airbase in Qatar, which is
Right.
adjacent?
So there are alternative means to, Paul Aldridge actually talked about it. It's true. We have alternative means to, alternative platforms we can use to allocate to strikes. So it's like long range strike platforms like B2s out of San Diego Garcia. You have certain air bases in the region that have certain long range runways that can use heavy lift aircraft. Saudi Arabia is very important if you're going to have the House of Saud and Israel be involved in the strikes, because they don't have heavy lift aircraft, and subsequently forward basing your strike aircraft would assist with those kinds of things, sub launch, cruise missiles and all the rest of it. I was just going through that to kind of like help bounce off of what Paul was and help, like, I guess maybe tighten the shock group a little bit on one of the observations Paul was mentioning. Did that help, Asi?
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Armin,
Oh,
also glad to
yeah.
see you. Tell to Goldie I said hello.
Okay, that was amazing, Jeffrey. That was like a lot of, I'm so glad that you're here. I hope you continue coming to our discussion groups because you
I'll send out my
really,
background. Reach out anytime.
And
yeah, okay. Javid Shah, thank you so much. I'm gonna make you a premium member so that hopefully you come back into our other discussions so that we could ask you questions.
By all means,
Um,
look, if you want to ask questions now, go ahead.
I also sent you a message on school asking for your email. So if you can send me your email there, that would be amazing. But
Yeah,
that,
it's the Statesman one that was sent to your email. With some of my contacts within the broader patriotic bloc that have been taking the fight against like any number of domestic co-aligned actors, whether it's radical leftists, Imam Rauf, Daisy Kana faced off against them.
okay, guys, if you have questions just from Jeffrey, raise your hand. I want them to raise their hand because I want to make sure we get to other people in the list, so that Asi will add them to the list, so that when it's their turn, they could ask any questions if they want.
By all means.
All right. So okay, so let's keep in mind that you can refer to Jeffrey. Okay, and we'll move on in the list. If you got something to say to him, just go on. So now we had Brittany or Brittany. I'm not sure I'm reading it right.
Sorry, it's Brittany.
Brittany.
But my son's embarrassed and he asked me not to talk. So, Jeffrey, can you send me your email too? I'll just send you an email if that's okay. Thanks.
Javi, Armin.
Yeah, of course, of course.
All right, Cat Lady.
Yes. Oh my God, I have some problems with the platform today. You keep getting stuck, all of you together a couple of times. I'm not sure I heard everything. So and also I'm not that updated. So I just wanted to say I'm updated for like an hour ago, not after that. So, but it was earlier today that you asked, how can I explain the why is Israel not doing it already? And one point that I heard is, maybe you've heard it, I don't know, I just want to say it, that until all the air defense system and everything is in place in the bases of the US in the area, we will not get the good to go because they will be in danger immediately. So we cannot do that. If until it's not only about politics, it's also about lives. That's another point. And
Just from now, Israeli media is kind of blasting that we are ready and we are on high alert. It kind of smells like they're preparing the public not to get into panic. Just saying. And now let's move on. Babak. Babak.
Is this first my question to Jeffrey or the normal ones first?
You can do, yeah, you can ask Jeffrey.
Hi, Jeffrey. You say you're a military expert. So just a question. I'm just a dummy and I'm retarded as a monkey. But if we drop down weapons and ammunition with parachuters down to the people, would that work? I can't hear you.
So
You're
that's,
muted.
can you hear
Now
me?
I can hear. Yeah.
So that's one of the things we looked at. A couple of lines of effort was, how do you provide assistance, both kinetic or non-kinetic, read lethal and non-lethal support to the brave Iranian protesters that are being killed by the IRGC and the besieged brigades. You know, well, everybody knows the actors that the mullahs use, right? I'm pretty sure. So here's the issue, right? Some of that, it's true. So as you know, during the 12-day war, we were able to shoot down a lot of the Mullah regime's ballistic missiles. That said, we burned through about 25% of our THAAD interceptors in 12 days. And when that happened, it's one of the reasons why people like me involved in missile defense has been pushing things like directed energy. Israel's version is Iron Beam, although there's range issues and a whole bunch of other technical stuff that it would take another whole hour to go through. I'm just saying, just as a kind of a reference, yeah? So, you know, like Iron Dome, David's Sling, David's Fist, all these other different kind of interceptors that are comprised of what is sometimes called a air and missile defense system. It's not that we can't hit a bullet with a bullet. We can. The issue is this, is that interceptor-centric defensive architectures have finite magazines. Once they're out of interceptors, they have a free shot. So what's the issue with that? If we're going to go in and drop things to the brave Iranian protesters, which may or may not happen, there's also, even though Israel did a lot of really good work, I mean, the Israeli Air Force did a lot of heavy lifting in that 12-day war. They took out a lot of air defense, a lot of nuclear capabilities, Sands, Fordow, Isfahan, and Natanz. If you want, I can talk about why we actually sent in V2s. I actually was a part and parcel of that. Not the only person. I played a role. The other part is that The Mullah regime still has some level of air defense. And after the 12-day war, both Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state and the Chinese Communist Party, along with some help from the North Korean regime, has played a big effort in trying to reconstitute the Mullah regime's capability, both in ballistic missile capability, refining their official material outside of Iran, right? Before we struck Fordow, Isfahan, and Natanz, some of that stuff was outsourced. The people in Iran are not wrong to understand that President Trump has their back more than any other president in the past five administrations. One of the bigger reasons why President Trump sent in the B2s is because, much like my assessment to some of the retired flag officers in the IDF in late 2022, right, regarding threat, risk, and vulnerability assessment regarding the Mullah regime's nuclear program, and that the Israelis, I told them, this is in the open now, there's going to come a time where Bibi and the Israelis are very rightly going to go, we don't care what the State Department says, the Mullah regime is close to a bomb, we're going to take our best shot. What's the problem? Israel, while as good as their Air Force is, and they are unbelievable, they don't have heavy lift aircraft, right? So the Mullah regime spent 20 years strategically dispersing and, more importantly, underground and hardening all their strategic assets. A lot of that was actually assisted by leftists in Canada. The ultra-hardened micro-reinforced concrete that the Mullah regimes used to harden Isfahan, Fordow, and Natanz was developed in part by certain leftists in, King's College in Canada, right? So how does that play into why President Trump went and sent the B-2s in? So the IAEA comes out. Mullah regime is 2 weeks away from having 11 bombs. The Israelis are like, we're making our shot. We're not going to die for anybody's political convenience. And for good reason. I love Bibi. I know people that know his chief of staff. So, right, Israel does its best shot. Israel only had strike aircraft. Fordow, Isfahan, and Natanz were buried so deeply that Israel could not hold them at risk conventionally. So that means Israel was thinking about using unconventional means to hold them at risk, meaning they were going to use a minor version of what sometimes is called the Samson Protocol, which means if Israel's state is threatened, they will use and launch all of their nuclear capability against all of their adversaries. And when Donald Trump saw that, he went, holy shit, and he sent in the B-2s because the B-2s were able to drop larger ordnance to take out Fordow, Isfahan, and Natanz, not only to assist our Israeli allies, also to save Iranians from the collateral damage if that would have been done. Like, that was actually talked about. Bibi's not a bad guy, right? I mean, I know that, Asi, I know you have issues with him. I'm saying, as far as like being bloodthirsty after October 7th, there were people in the Knesset that were pushing for the Samson Protocol. It was Bibi that shot it down. So why am I going through all of that? Because there was a lot of damage done to the Mullah regime, right, by Israel. Amazing people. That said, they still maintain some significant level of air defense. And if you do not do seeds or suppression of air defense missions prior to dropping off that stuff, then you're putting, say, your cargo aircraft at risk, or worse, let's say the food, water, medical supplies, Starlink communications, because that's some of the stuff I pushed up the chain, falls in the hand of the besieged and or the IRGC. Hopefully that answered you. I touched a whole bunch of stuff. That's the best I could do right now.
Yeah, I think it was a very good and full answer. All right. Let's move to.
Asi, did you see what I wrote?
So we had Babak, we had Dingleberry. Dingleberry.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm short. I'm gonna say it short, but before my rant, I'm Danish Iranian, and that's not that important.
Nice to
What
have
I'm
you.
gonna talk about is my father is lived through Iran through the revolution and the Iraq and Iran war, and he left to Denmark. So after Khomeini died and Khomeini took power and stuff, my father is he's very anti-Shah, but he's also anti the new regime. And the reason why he's anti-Shah is because he feels like the Shah was a puppet of the West, and or imperialism, or whatever you want to call it. But the point that I want to talk about is, like, in Denmark, I have noticed, even though I don't care that much about generally, I wasn't gave a shit about politics before, before the whole Palestine Gaza stuff. But that's not the topic today. But the thing about it in Denmark, if you look who covers the things about Iran, it's always in Denmark. It's always like Danish people, like Iranians themselves don't talk about what happens in Iran. And every time a Danish person talks about Iran, the Iranians get very defensive. They even begin defending the Islamic Republic. And there's big articles on Danish where they say, like, we don't need the support of the Danish, the Iranian people's, I'm translating from Danish to English, for freedom and stuff, and democracy and other stuff. Then he said that the Europeans only want to help Iran because they want to install a new puppet of the West. And he says that you guys don't know shit about Iran or what the politic is like the Danish people. Like they say, you think that we want the Shah's son back, but that's not true. Like he says about that, it's like an ethnic national group made of Kurds and Azeris, Turkmens, and other Balzuri Arabs and Armenians. That's like 35%. That's one group. There's the Sunni and other major religious group. That's 15%. Then there's the Republic, 30%. There's the MK, and then there's like other groups. Then says that the monarchy group in Iran is 5 to 10%. Like I don't know because I don't. Even though I'm Iranian, my Farsi is not that good. I'm very good at understanding, but reading not that good. And my father, as I said, he's like what's it called? I don't know what it is. He's Republican, or maybe I don't know. Like he doesn't view the MKK as bad as you do. Like he doesn't say. He says that the. I heard you said that the MKK is Islamic, but my father says that it doesn't make sense because communists are the most anti religious group. But then again, my father, like he also says that Stalin did good things in Poland. He says that Stalin saved Poland from communism or something.
Let's give Armin the chance to answer to what you said.
So the main question is how could MEK be Islamic when communism is anti-religion? Is that the main
Yes,
question?
that's one thing. But also that in Denmark, Danish people, when they cover about what happens in Iran, like the Israel-Iran war or like the protest in 2002 and 3, they're like, when Danish people cover, the Iranians get very defensive. They don't like when Danish people talk about Iran or anything related to Iran.
Well, maybe because they're saying stuff like Stalin did good things and the MEK cannot be religious. Maybe because of that.
No, it's
I don't
because
know.
in Denmark, the most Iranian, I think, are not monarchist. They're like anti. So every time they hear Danish people support Reza Pahlavi, they say, "Oh, you just
So
supporting a puppet of
is this
Israel."
based on personal experience or do you have that statistics?
No, I look like in Facebook or Instagram when Danish
Yeah,
people
that is
make
not
posts.
that is not scientifically collected data, so it's not a good representation of what the Iranian people think. If you look at data, the Iranians are extremely anti-MEK, and the highest amount of support is for Princess of Pahlavi. And I don't expect that in a specific country to be different than other countries. So what you see on social media has more to do with what you engage with personally and what the algorithm is guessing that you're interested in. So if you once like click on something that was anti-Pahlavi from an Iranian, then the algorithm is going to be like, oh, so you must like anti-Pahlavi content from Iranian. So here's a lot more. And regarding how could Marxists be Islamists at the same time, Marxism is more an economic point of view, even though they were anti. I mean, what the MEK got out of it was basically the economic perspectives, right? Not the anti-God perspective. I mean, people mix in ideologies with each other all the time. Like the ideologies evolve and change and they merge and they divide and they evolve all the time. So this is not something weird at all. And in fact, Shia Islam is very in fact, it wasn't the MEK that invented this. Like this happened way before the MEK. There were thinkers who are responsible for the merger of Islamic ideas and Marxism, especially Shia Islam, and one of them was Ali Shariati. And there's actually a lot of parallels in Shia Islam and Marxism, and that's why this is why the merger between Islamism and Marxism happened way more successfully among Shias, especially given that like the Hussein. Because here's the thing with Sunni Islam, you were not supposed to be rebellious against the system because they were the system. The Sunnis ruled over the Islamic Empire for many years. The Shias were the rebels, so they have revolutionary and rebellious tropes and their stories. For example, the story of Hussein was about rebelling against the system, against the authorities. Marxist revolutionary language actually managed to merge perfectly with Shia Islamic ideology. In fact, it was Ali Shariati who turned Hussein, which is the holiest person among Shia Muslims, and his fighting Karbala into a revolutionary Marxist. It's easy to mix and match ideas with each other. Like even these religious ideas have evolved throughout the years. So it's I mean, if you want to say that, then you could also say, like, oh, Shia Islam is not supposed to rule. For hundreds of years, Shia Islam was about believed in the fact that you shouldn't be ruling until the Mahdi comes back. So how are the mullahs all of a sudden ruling? Well, because they just invented a new ideology. The guardianship of the jurists just came up with like, hey, how about we change that part? And we say like, because of this and this, we can rule. So just because it was in a way for many years, that doesn't mean that they cannot change it. These are ideas. It's not based on objective reality. You could just change them. It's not like math and physics. Okay, it's just ideology. You could just make it up as you go.
Can I say one thing real
Just
quick?
to
I'm gonna make it very
Dingleberry's
short.
defense, just to Dingleberry's defense, I live in Denmark too, and I haven't been in every town in Denmark, but I've been in Odense and Copenhagen. I live in Odense again now. Iranians here are actually quite crazy, okay? Many of them are anti-Shah,
Yeah,
anti-monarchy,
maybe you
believe me.
got I don't know. I'm just saying if maybe you're right, but I'm just saying if I want to believe that, I have to see data. I'm not going to go based on your opinion and Dingleberry's opinion. I'm not going to go
No,
based on personal experience. I'm not going to go based on social media posts. Maybe you're right, but I need to see data. And even if you're right, I guess you got the crazy ones. Glad
it's
that you
Yeah,
have
like
them on
yeah.
your side.
I don't want to speculate like how do they got to this understanding and needed to leave Iran. It's not nice, but
no,
I don't want to speculate, so I leave it here.
of
Can I
course,
say
but
one thing
it's
real
just
quick?
it's got nothing to do with
All
algorithms.
right,
Because on the ground, I see these people. I meet them.
that's personal experience. It's not a very reliable source of information.
Can I say one
Okay,
thing real quick?
go
Sure,
One
ahead
yeah.
minute
and then
max.
one.
Okay, like my father tells me that the reason why American Iranians support them are so pro-Shah is because most monarchists that left Iran went to America. That's why you always see when you see American media or anything that's why it is so pro-Shah is because that's where all the monarchists live. But the
For,
other groups,
forget
Iranians, all the
forget
other groups, they
forget
live other
Iranians
places in the West.
forget Iranians in America and Iranians in Canada and Iranians in Denmark. Look at what the Iranians in Iran are saying. Look at what the Iranians in Iran in the streets of Iran. Look at the name. Whose name are they chanting? Look at the who are they risking their lives for? The Iranians inside Iran.
Yeah, but I heard a lot of people say that the people who support the Shah are like they're like what's it called? Hevun,
Animal. Hevun
Scapegoats,
is like
sacrificial.
animal.
Yeah.
yeah,
Wait, they're saying that
Bishul,
they're like they're like the Yahudis, so they're accusing them of being like Jews.
yeah, they are Yahudi, like Sakavashi.
Okay,
This is the ones who support.
Sagiv actually means like a wild animal. So basically, you're telling me the people who are telling you this are also anti-Semitic Jew haters. Okay, so that's the source of your
No,
information.
because
Jew
my father is
hating.
not anti.
They're-
My father tells me that, but my father is not. I wouldn't.
Sure
you just
sounds
said
like
yeah.
that.
He sounds like he is.
But this thing is, my father in.
Anybody who's saying that pro monarchy, pro Pahlavi people are like Jews and like they're what like wild dog, like Jewish wild dogs. Okay, I don't think that's a good source of information. Let's move on. I mean,
Go on.
actually, what you know what? I'll count that as an endorsement. Anybody who hates Jews, I want them to also hate Pahlavi because I don't want somebody who's anti-Jewish to be on our side. Okay, I think it's an endorsement that somebody who hates Jews also hates. Oscar, close your mic. I'm hearing myself. I think it's an endorsement that somebody who hates Jews, if they also hate Pahlavi, that's an endorsement. Okay, go on. I see.
All right. So now we have Himat. Himat?
Hello. If you guys don't know, there is a news just that came now or 1 hour ago that there was a meeting in the Israel Security Cabinet and they discussed about Iran. and they decide. I think I don't know if this is true that they have decided to strike on Iran, and they have authorized the operation as a Iron Strike. I don't know if it is true. And I wanted to say that UAE also warned the USA about the consequences that are catastrophic if USA strikes on Iran. So I know that Iran warned the USA, I mean the regime warned USA that it will launch all its assets at once if USA strikes it or if Israel intervenes. So if they do, they will launch everything they have, all the 500 Khyber missiles and everything. So is the UAE warning about this or something else? I wanted to ask
Yeah.
about this.
Jeffrey, if you want to say something, write it because nobody could read your lips. Actually, that's a very interesting point because that's the main concern because the Islamic Republic is going to be incapable. I think that they're not going to be able to hit Israel very hard. They're not going to be able to hit the United States bases very hard. I mean, I think Jeffrey might knows better these things better than me. So, but they actually are capable of hitting UAE assets very well. They're capable of hitting Saudi Arabia very well. They're capable of hitting Qatar very well. So they're like, if we cannot reach American interests or Israeli interests or bases, we're going to go after your allies. We're going to go after whoever we can actually hurt. And they know by threatening Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar, then those countries will use their lobbies in the United States to try to stop a war. So they effectively turn Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE into their lobbies in Washington because they don't have as powerful of a lobby in Washington themselves. By threatening them, they're trying to use those countries to force America to stop going into war. Does that answer your question, Iman?
It's funny that I just thought if you are like hiding something from us, or I think you are connected to some secret agency because I think you're very smart and I really like to appreciate it. And yeah, yes.
Secret agents, I think, keep it to themselves though. They don't show up in that.
Yeah, guys, we're lucky to have Jeffrey here. The fact that he's making time for us,
But he's a
very
gold
grateful.
mine.
Hopefully, he continues to come to our group.
Okay, so now we had Jeffrey. It's your turn again.
So I'll bounce on. That's very sweet of you to say there. Hi, Matt. My wife is, American of Eastern Indian descent, so I should know how to pronounce it. I can pronounce Singh, I just can't pronounce first name. Anyway, a couple of things, right? You're not wrong in the sense that the Mullah regime, like one of the concerns is the Mullah regime striking out at everything in the region, particularly if you have a actor that frames their position from such a domain of loss. They go down the S curve of prospect theory from risk adverse, I mean risk acceptant, because they have nothing left to lose. That was something taught to me by one of my mentors at Georgetown 21 years ago. He's the co-founder of the Middle East Institute, which deals with liberating Iran. And his name was Dr. Tanter. He wrote a really good book on deterrence and rogue regimes and counterterrorism. I'll post it in the thing. Anyway, so you're not wrong in the sense that that's a concern. There is another index in the overall calculation you have to keep in mind, right? Which is particularly when you have a pseudo theologically motivated actor, right? Because Islam is not an Abrahamic religion. I don't hate all the members of the Ummah. I'm saying Islam, the belief system that Armin very accurately identified as the underpinnings of the Mullah regime. They're the most inelastic, right? Because they don't frame their position of gain or loss. What is it physically? They frame it metaphysically, like throwing little notes down, like Ahmadiyya dinner jacket. We used to throw little notes down to the 12th Imam in the well, right? So keeping that in mind, you have to weigh relative risk, right? The risk of not doing, right? Or the risk of retaliation if you do. If the simple fact is, given the Mullah regime's inelasticity regarding its pursuit of nuclear weapons and or weapons of mass destruction in general, and the fact that you have these enabling global socioeconomic and technological trends, advancements of transportation technology, minimizing loss of strength, grain, stop, power, water, advancements in telecommunications, information technology, minimizing transaction costs regarding information, and a integration of a post-industrial knowledge-based globalized economy, although we're delinking. What it means is it's a lot easier now for smaller and smaller actors to get capabilities it was only available to very powerful actors like superpowers, right? So keeping those things in mind, what it says is I would contend the lesser risk is taking the shot now to remove the Mullah regime, because long term, having the Mullah regime sustain itself is an unacceptable risk, both for the region and for the world, given the Mullah regime's, what is it, involvement in being part of the overall autocratic bloc. It's very simple. It's very clear that we're in the opening stages, or I can say with the highest degree of probability, we are in the opening stages of a high intensity world war, right? So what we have to do now is take down as many of the members of the autocratic bloc as possible to minimize the damage, or hopefully to short circuit it. That's one of the things that makes those kids in Iran the bravest. When they said, when I'm getting choked up, man, that those kids aren't just saving Iran, that they're playing a role in helping save the world, he wasn't lying. So you have to weigh relative risk, Hyman. You're not wrong about the risk. And that doesn't mean you don't try to set up all your ducks as best as you can in something called time compression, right? That said, the best chance is the Mullah regime has to go. And our best shot is the Iranian people in supporting them.